I'm Bruce Fram, CEO of AppSecAI, and I'm here with Dave Kosorok, who is the Director of InfoSec at Toast, a company we all use every time we go to a coffee shop. They always seem to get me my toast through the credit card, so we all know Toast with that. And we're both talking about our experiences with AI, and my experience is, at AppSecAI, we use AI to automatically fix security vulnerabilities in code written by both developers, but increasingly AI. And we've been at this for a couple of years, and boy, have we learned some interesting and hard lessons that I would like to share with you. And Dave and I got started because we were on Zoom riffing a few weeks ago, and he had so many similar stories. That's practical advice and fun. We're here to have some fun, that we thought we'd share some of them with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Bruce. I've been doing this involved in technology for 30 years, of course, and specifically in the AppSec area for about 17 years, and very passionate about it. I run the product security, SOC, ISOC, corporate security teams at Toast. And just kind of a side statement, the things I share with Bruce are my opinions. They may not reflect necessarily of what Toast does, but this is more of an industry experience kind of discussion.
Yeah, that's great. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about, which is fun. As I said, I've been in AppSec a long time. Also, as the initial CEO at Contrast Security. So I've seen lots of development, in this area, but applies to security in general. I think the things we were talking about. The first thing I think we talked about was fun. I am motivated by playing with this AI technology. I am curious. I use it for lots of things beyond coding. I'm not a coder myself, but I've written a bunch of code. I used to do COBOL a long time ago, but I am insanely curious and use it every day in all aspects of my life, including this morning looking at some homeowners insurance issues. That's just was on my desk this morning, and it was an issue, and I threw it into AI, and it gave me a very good answer that saves a lot of time. But I'm doing this because I enjoy doing it, and I'm learning every day. And Dave and I have been around for a long time. I can tell we've never seen technology move this quick. Yeah. It is so fast. It changes every week in that, and it's really fun. So it's just exciting to be part of something that is revolutionary. This just doesn't happen every day in our lives. This is a once in a lifetime, once in a generation thing, and I'm excited to be part of it and to be learning every day because I love learning.
And what's interesting, this is an opportunity for techno nerds like us, where we love to dive in and figure out, hey, let's do some vibe coding. Let's create a mobile app to do something, or let's see if we can create an automatic pen tester, which is, things that are kind of goofy, but we'd love to do it and experiment with it. Well, I have a son that is not a coder at all, and he was curious about something. I think the biggest requirement to use AI is curiosity and the desire to be humble and learn and let something teach you. He developed a mobile app that did something super cool, and he's not a coder. He's actually dyslexic, has a difficult time reading, but he's super smart and can solve problems. And he figured out how to work with AI to talk to it, and was able to write a mobile app that did something super amazing. And he's never coded a line before in his life. So we're seeing things that are happening with AI that are beyond what we were thinking even a year ago.
Yeah, I think if you always look at Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz said, many years ago, 10 years ago, software is eating the world. I think he's wrong. I think it's the explosion we're about to see in the next 12 months is incredible, because I've got a lot of friends and relatives who are also not coders, and they're doing the same thing. They're creating applications and they're showing them to me, and we have an explosion because coding has been kind of the high priesthood. For the long time, and we're part of the high priesthood, Dave, and we know enough to go do all this stuff. But the people who are doing it have no or very little computer science background, and they're doing, crazy things. So we're about to have a software explosion that has a lot of implications for security. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of implications for
Well,
security.
AI is unleashing the curiosity in people like my son, like others that have never coded. AI is not going to replace curiosity. It's not going to replace inventive nature of human beings. What it does do, though, is allow us to erupt with creativity faster and go to market in speeds that have never been seen before. We're seeing coding going from 1x to 4x rapidly, and with new features, and of course, the attack surface is expanding rapidly out there. All of that is because of the creativity that AI is unleashing in all of us.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have the creativity behind the high priesthood. Well,
Yeah.
Dave, you got some creativity because you told me that you're developing your own pen tester, and I was like, why are you developing your own pen tester? Aren't there companies and services that do this? And maybe you could tell us about why you're doing this and some
Yeah.
of the fun you've had with your pen tester.
Well, it was kind of interesting. It kind of started when I was editing an article a few years ago. Actually, it was 2024. And the first time and it was an article that was describing how you can use AI to hack an application. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So the first time I was experimenting with it, because when I'm editing, I like to do what the article's talking about. And I was able to successfully do something. It was actually exploiting a cross-site scripting issue that was found in a test target, all legally tested, of course. The next week that I was reviewing the notes on it, I wasn't able to do it because they were moving AI to become more ethical. And so they wouldn't allow you to directly command it to do something and exploit a security vulnerability. And so as I've evolved from that point to now experimenting to say, hey, how can I get an AI to pen test something for me? So this is not done to replace pen testing because pen testing, a lot of it is very creative, but it was to experiment and see what could I do. Right now, it's kind of finding a couple things. It's not anything that's going to replace, I could probably hire someone for $5 an hour and it would still not do what they're doing. But it's the fun of it, really. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it finds stuff. Sometimes it finds a couple things that are pretty obvious. But it was all done just because I was curious. And I don't plan to sell it. I'm not going to be competing with Expo or anybody of the other competitors that are out there that are doing stuff like this. I'm just doing it for fun.
Yeah, it's great. Well, you got an interesting idea of fun. I guess we all do, as we were talking earlier, how we both have the gas called gadget acquisition syndrome, and we're talking about our
Oh,
various.
my kids are gonna love that. Yeah, thank you.
Exactly. We've all got that, as you were finding that. The other thing that's interesting with AI that gets off course is it always flatters me. I didn't know if you knew this about me, but I'm the world's most brilliant person. Okay, it always tells me I'm right. That's a good point.
Yeah. Now, I have to stop you there because my A tells me I'm the smartest person in the room. So I think we have a conflict there.
Well, you said the smartest person in the room. Yeah, you're the smartest person in your room. And I'm the
Well,
smartest.
my room's the world, so I don't know.
Exactly. But it always tells me I'm brilliant. And
Yeah.
and here's a practical tip of how it's gotten me off track many times. It always tells me I'm smart. That's a good point, and we're almost there. And what I found, and this is the tip, what I found, it keeps telling me you're almost there, even when it's on the wrong track. And it convinces you. And I've gone down the wrong track for an hour sometimes because it says just one more thing, just one more thing. And I'm saying this isn't right because I have a little bit of coding background. I say I'm on the wrong track, but it convinces me psychologically to continue down the track that will not work. So here's the response is that I give it. Sometimes you have to say stop, reset, start again. Okay, if you don't do that, you will spend hours going down the wrong track for something that it's just never going to get there. And
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. I don't know if it really does go rogue on
Yeah.
this.
With that, one of the things I experimented with early as I was getting conversations with AI, and it was saying, "Hey, David, you're awesome. You're doing the right thing." I'm like, "Wait a second. That's not what I was asking them originally." I found that if I created a PRD first and just kind of defined my requirements and kind of hard coded into an MD file, And then I'd say, hey, review that one more time. Let's get back on track. This is not what I wanted. And then it would say, oh, yeah, you're right. Reviewing, you know what? Let's go back to these requirements. And that kind of helped having to tell it to stop, reset. I said, just review the requirements. Let's get back to that and focus on that. So that simple thing helped me not to have to redefine myself every 15 or 20 minutes as I'm going down the road.
Well, I used to be a systems analyst a long time ago when I was in college. These are the basic tenets of software development that have been here for 50 years. In the end, what are your requirements? And that is absolutely true with AI. I spend time in plan mode. I don't let it code anymore. In the beginning, we always, hey, give me this, here's 3 lines. I don't do that. Very key to have it do plan mode all the time and plan, and save your plan and have it exactly. You've discovered the same thing I did. And have it criticize your plan. 3 times. And of course, yes, save it off in an MD file. But it's so tempting to go in and just start doing something. And then you get excited because it did something that was close. But you never did the planning. And when we were doing software development, it was more expensive. And it was more expensive. Your requirements were everything. And I learned that very early and articulated them very early in my career.
And I wonder if, as we go through 2026, that planning mechanism, the ability to stickiness for AI, if that will improve dramatically, because everybody has talked about this problem with AI, where it relies on context from humans to stay on track. I'm curious, I'm excited to see what kind of improvements they can make rapidly in the next few months to have it be a little bit more sticky to that concept.
Well, interestingly enough, because I'm doing this every day, and that there's a number of skills and plugins around that do this very well. I can't quite remember, one of those like superpowers or something like that. I forget what the name of it is, but they're very effective. And when you dig in, look at the code, because I was looking at it, they're really skills and simple prompts. And there's a whole bunch of people out there doing these things that they're not deep coding. Here's a bunch of good principles that do it, and they absolutely work, and they're going to continue to work better. Because to quote Matt Berman, who I watch all the time on YouTube, hey, the AI we have today is the worst AI we're ever going to have.
Yeah,
and the planning stuff, there's 1,000 people out there doing planning kinds of things that are fantastic.
Now, the other thing I've noticed is that we do see a tendency of all the AI engines as they kind of reach a peak and they're like, okay, we're going to plateau for a little bit. That's the point, I think, is where we start looking for really great contextual data. The winner of AI is not going to be the most beautiful engine. It's going to be the most beautiful data. Does it have the specific data we need? When you look across the internet and suck all that data in, well, that's cool, but we all did that. Everybody in the club has done that already. What we're looking for now is private data that has been not PCI or PII data. I'm talking about data that was not exposed to the internet for LLMs to be trained on, but like private. Like if you look at companies that are very specific, like that store data on teeth. If you look at Align Technology, they make Invisalign clear braces. Incredible technology. Well, they had the largest database in the world on teeth. And now I used to work for them. I was their director of application security. An amazing company, great security, by the way, great leaders there. But where they win is not just in technology, which I think is okay. What they win and where they go way above and beyond is because their data is so clear. It allows AI to make really tight, intelligent decisions that it couldn't do without that data.
Yeah, we found, and I think that's 100% right, just even in the software development realm and our software development process, we are constantly giving it more context and saving it.
Yeah.
We have, a 400-line Claude MD file for some of the things we do, and we're always adding to the context for the application we're developing in application security. And new things happen, we're giving it that context, and that's a lot of any company's IP. I'm sure at Toast you've got similar kinds of things that you do, of adding more and more of that context continuously so we don't make the same mistakes over and over. I think I've told the story. We once had a funny thing early in our development where we were fixing vulnerabilities in code, and the vulnerability fix was awesome. It was automated. We ran through all of our functional checks and our security checks and whatever, but the AI deleted all the comments in the code. What now we want to, so that's a piece of context you have to give it of don't delete code comments, because if you don't tell it what to do, it was hilarious at the time.
I think everybody that's using system prompts now to kind of really create a backbone of consistency for their programming, both from the security perspective as well as whatever other patterns like keeping your comments and things like that. People are realizing I have to be involved in system prompts for our enterprise AI. You can't just fly along and say it's going to remember that. You have to keep that context memory in place.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
totally there with you.
Yeah, well, crazy is I've done a bunch of vibe coding and things with pie charts and reporting and things, and I took forever to get the pie charts right. And now having the context of do pie charts, off of this report and do a new version it may sound simple, but to do it well and get the pie chart to work in the PDF and on the screen and all that stuff, I've got that solved, and I have to tell it it's ridiculous context. But
Yeah,
I've got context around it.
This works for areas. I mean, I was playing with photos the other day, and I'm like, I want it to generate some cool artwork for me. And every time I ask it, it would do it in a different style. I said, no, I want Victorian steampunk because that's cool, and then I do that and it creates something different. I said, okay, wait, take this one I like and have that be my root image. So every time I'll say, make it like this, following the same thought of this. And that allowed me to create this wonderful story that was similar across all of the pictures that I was generating. So AI is able to really do much better than it did even 6 months ago on sticking to what you really intending to do with this.
And that comes
cool.
always back to the requirements,
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
that. But here's the other interesting thing with coding and doing that, and especially I think does this applies to security is these models get smarter. We're not coding anymore. I mean, in the end, the natural extension of these requirements, and I've seen this, is if you do a good enough job requirements, and I never do enough there, you actually don't even know what your code looks like anymore. And we have, in our company, we've got, developers who aren't coding in the classic way of coding. It's really interesting. And so they don't even know what the code looks like.
One of my favorite movies is Galaxy Quest. And you have Tim Allen trying to tell a computer what to do. It's like, hey, we need to do this. And he looks at Sigourney Weaver and he says, tell the computer that. And she says the exact same thing he said, but the computer understands her. And, this reminds me that, and which I thought was really great, because today we're not going to be developers of code. We're going to be developers of ideas. And that means we all have to become expert prompt engineers, not just coding engineers or security engineers, but prompt engineers with that ability to communicate clearly with AI and know how to do that.
Yeah, it is, and we're all, and our engineers are turning into this. Good engineers are turning this. But let me get tips is where AI makes mistakes, and we've got lots of mistakes we could talk about. Is it's really not that great at all the exception conditions. It's really not all that great. It will give you the functionality it works, but it doesn't say, hey, what happens when the API times out? It didn't even know an API can time out. It doesn't know what to do, if authorization tokens are malformed. It doesn't have all those exception conditions we found. And so that's kind of part of the prompting. Think about timeouts and all the exception conditions, because we don't have one program anymore. They're all conglomerations of services. Whether you're using a database service or an authentication service, and every service has exception conditions. And the AI code coming out of the AI doesn't really do a good job on that today. So I would say, think about exception conditions to people, write down all the exception conditions, because otherwise you're going to spend a lot of time fixing them.
Well, and that should be part of your prompt engineering. That should be part of your system prompts and all those kind of things where you say, hey, remember this, make it sticky, and then run it through your process. I totally agree with that. And it's really fun as you develop the system prompts and the memory of your AI as you work with it, it gets to know you. Because I was playing with it the other day, and I was writing something. It said, "Hey, do you want me to add some exceptions here like you did last time?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, go for it." And it actually did you know, an exception for me that and did a very good job. And I was like, okay, that was pretty well done. Now I used to not have the conversation. I used to just say I'm going to be black and white with with AI. I'm not going to say please or thank you. And my kids were saying, Dad, you're so mean. You're so rude to AI. What are you? And they've personalized their relationship with AI so much so that not only does it add context, but it adds some personality to how they communicate with AI. And I thought, oh, should I be more kind to my AI friend here? And because it's so helpful. But I've found that when I'm polite, it doesn't respond to politeness necessarily, but I do. And I become more open to how I communicate with AI when I'm thinking, let's be kind. And, let's be kind, rewind is probably something no one even hears anymore. But let's be kind and communicate properly with AI, giving it the context for what you're saying, the error handling, all of those things. That's just built in as we kind of program our own AI systems.
Yeah, they're learning. Well, I think when you onboard on now to ChatGPT, it asks you, "Hey, I've got five personalities. Pick one."
Yeah.
It asked me that the other day. For some reason, it came out of the blue and said, "Hey, which personality do you want?" And it's going to be our personality that as it learns and it gets more context, with that.
Now, I'm curious, Bruce, have you tried? This is something I was going to try tonight. I haven't actually tried it yet. I was going to pull up one AI that's really well known and another AI really well known that both respond well to verbal commands and respond. And I wanted to see if I could get a conversation going between the three of us and see what that would look like. So I don't know if you've tried that yet, but I'm just kind of curious to see who wins.
Yeah, I think that's a great experiment and not hard to do, and give it a topic to come out. That's a great idea. We've done more things that are more prosaic, like have one AI look at the code that another AI wrote. But I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea. And there's just things that do reasonable conversations, as I'm sure you've played with Notebook LLM from Google.
Yeah.
That's got if you don't, well, that's a fun feature where you give it a bunch of context and it creates a podcast out of it is
Yeah.
really fun. There's so much fun things you can do of hooking it up. And we're really scratching the surface. It's really trying it. Just because you think it's been done, it probably hasn't been done because people are just scratching the surface. So, I think about, I think you were saying earlier, Dave, about, security professionals, is this is our superpower of security. We wouldn't be in security if we didn't have curiosity. If we want to do accounting software, that's great, but that hasn't changed in 30 or 40 years. Security, we always say it's the gift that has giving. It's never going to put us out of jobs. I mean, you were concerned. Some people have said, "Hey, is it what's going to impact my job?" It is going to impact your job, but because security keeps changing, it's the gift that keeps giving. I think we all have a bright future in this because it keeps going. It's not like accounting. I mean, I think there probably will be less accountants in the world, in a year or two, because that's a well-known thing, and generally accepted accounting principles don't change every week. But
Yeah.
boy, does security change every week.
Yeah. And I think just think about that concept for just a minute of change. I had a great conversation with an executive the other day, and he really talked about there's a few things you need to change in this world and be better because each of us are not at a state where we want to be. At least I hope we're not. I want to always be better at something else. And there's a couple things you need: curiosity and humility. The humility is the part that says, I need to change because I can be better, and recognizing you can be better. And I like that combination. I think one of the things that we need to absorb as practitioners of the AI playground is the continuous learning, the curiosity, and the humility to say, I can learn something better. I love how Elon Musk is talking about this is AI is the path to learning for the future. It may not be universities, it may not be this or that, but we can learn anything. But you can't unless you have that ability to be humble as you absorb information.
Yeah, I think there's never been a time for better learning because you can learn anything. I have it explain things to me all the time. And as you look at, and really not just in AIs, we look at ourselves as humans, and there's all kinds of stories on superagers. I'm sure you've read these things, the 100-year-old who's still doing this or doing that, and they have a certain common characteristics, and one of them is curiosity and learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter AI, doesn't matter what it is. AI is a superpower in learning that will keep us, I think, as humans more engaged, stronger, healthier as we can all learn in doing that.
Yeah, and my sweet mother-in-law is 83. Now I'll probably get in trouble for saying that number publicly, but she doesn't look it and she doesn't act it because she is always curious. She's always learning something. At 83, she's playing with the computer, she's doing things. Now, every once in a while, something will break, and that's because she's curious, not because she's making mistakes that are irreparable. And so I really love to see where someone who's categorized as old, which I think that's changing every day now,
Yes.
becomes young because of their curiosity.
And I will tell you, I have a dad who's 10 years older than your mother-in-law, and he is doing the same stuff, and he uses ChatGPT and
I
asks
love it.
different questions, and he is curious, and he blogs and does all these things, and that is one of his secrets to mental longevity. I mean, he's very smart,
I love it.
and really gets it. It's because he's had that lifelong curiosity. And that's the message, I think, for all of us as we look forward in our lives, not just our careers, is AI is not going to replace us. It's going to enhance us at doing that. And it's just fun to be part of the show and have this opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, 100% agree that it's a fun space to be in, especially like you started earlier and talked about this is a once in a lifetime, probably once in 200 years where this happens, where we see something that's so evolutionary that everyone can potentially benefit from this. There's no one that's excluded. Think about looking at jobs, what they can enhance. Name one job where AI can't dramatically help that job. And I was kind of talking to my kids about this. I said, "What can AI do for you?" And they're like, "Well," and one was like, "Well, I'm an electrician. I think I can just ask a question." I was like, "Yeah, just ask a question." Or like I was a cabinet maker for 5 years, and I worked my way through college as a cabinet maker. And I remember sitting down and creating plans, mathematical plans for all the angles that had to have for complex cabinet issues. And I was experimenting and playing with it just the other day. I'm like, how much time would it take me to do that now? I typed in some stuff and I got a picture. I got exact measurements. And because I've done it before, I knew that it wasn't uh, making it up out of the blue. We can take any job and leverage it dramatically using our creativity with AI.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, you knew what you were doing. You had enough experience in cabinet making to know what made sense, and that's where the human comes in because it does all kinds of things that don't make sense,
That's right.
to me all the time. And I can go on about that, but I think it does that, and that's why we need the human because it definitely shows me things that don't make sense, and it will
Yeah.
always do that.
And I always know when AI is wrong and it's telling me I'm the smartest person in the room and my wife is sitting next to me. I'm like, oh, I know you're wrong now. So yeah, I've seen that.
We've all seen that. Well, great, Dave. Thanks for your time. This has really been fun, and I hope everyone in the audience gets some good ideas and some good tips out of this.
Awesome. And all I can say is stay curious, stay humble, keep learning, keep experimenting. It's really fun.
Absolutely.